Hello, this is Big Ben, and you're on Meet the Entertainers on the Big Ben Show. Today we're talking to Amy Bielawski, who's based in Atlanta. She started as a dancer, and then she learned balloon twisting, face painting. She did stage shows. She did singing, telegrams, bellygrams as a belly dancer, and now she runs her own company. It's Hair-Brained Productions. The website is www.hair-brainedproductions.com, and you can search for her on Facebook at Hair-Brained Productions. If you want to contact me, I'm Ben, and you can reach me at www.thebigbenshow.com. And if you want to email me, it's ben@thebigbenshow.com. Alright, let's go over. Let's talk to Amy. How did you get started?
Well, I guess I have to blame my mother.
Yeah?
She was an entertainer in her young life, and then by the time, well, she was actually a stripper, but anyway.
Wow.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah, she was a stripper, but it was in the 70s, so it was kind of more burlesque-ish kind of stuff. And we traveled around the country when I was little for a few years, and then she decided that, it was time to settle down and, have me in school and that kind of stuff, because she was teaching me correspondence, what homeschooling is today.
Right.
So for a couple of years, and then, and I stayed in motel rooms by myself. And
Wow.
While
that's
she was
amazing.
working, but yeah, that's a whole other book. But anyway.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to be interviewing a guy in Hong Kong who used to be a stripper and then became a birthday entertainer. I'm going to interview him in a few weeks' time. Amazing, small world.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but I mean, like I said, it was only for a couple years, and then she decided to go from that life to throwing me into Catholic school, and was quite the contradiction, obviously, for me and for everything. And then at a year or so later, she decided that she was going to open a dance and piano studio in our house.
Wow,
So
your mum sounds amazing.
Our living room became, the dance studio with the piano in it and that kind of stuff. So that's what I grew up doing.
Wow.
And teaching classes to little kids and stuff like that. Dance was more my thing than piano. I mean, I don't know what it was about piano. Maybe because she was better at it, and somehow dance, just became the easy thing for me. So then I wanted to be a ballerina.
Yes.
And I, I was in dance group in high school with the, band and stuff like that. And then I decided to go to Florida School of the Arts to get my college degree. And I did that for 2 years. And, so then, I was going to go to New York.
Yes.
Somehow it didn't happen because I followed my college boyfriend to Georgia.
Okay.
And, sadly kind of got stuck here. So, but then met other people who kind of taught me the rest of the business. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your mum was a very big influence. And also, well, burlesque is very closely related to vaudeville. And vaudeville is closely related to a lot of the entertaining, the street performing, and that I see around the world. So that's interesting. And your mum was also a pianist. Did you say?
Yeah. Actually, she got to have piano lessons when she was little. She was not allowed to have dance lessons.
Right.
Because that was frivolous, but piano lessons were, I guess okay. And I heard from her that her teacher said that she could have been, a concert pianist.
Oh, wow.
Sadly,
Okay.
it it was back in the, early 60s when she got married and wanted to have babies and blah, blah, blah. So that's what happened. And she didn't, recreate herself until, after all of the stuff went down and then became a stripper.
Wow. So, would you say your mum is a big influence on you?
Yes. Creatively, yes. I mean, she has been. I mean, she was a single mother. We grew up, by ourselves together, and I obviously was dragged around in her life and what she was trying to accomplish, and I do give her credit for what she did. I know she had a hard time of it, and sadly we don't speak to each other anymore.
Okay. All right.
It was very, very difficult relationship, but
it must have been hard for both of you.
As I grew older.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it must have been hard for both of you. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got the dance influence straight away. You wanted to be a ballerina for a while. So how do you start getting? How do you start moving from it being a hobby to a profession? Was it gradual, or were there some big turning points?
Well, when I, graduated from college and got my degree, and really was intending to get to New York and become a modern dancer.
Because your degree's in dance, is that right?
Yeah. So my body was not a ballerina body.
Right.
Sadly, in the 80s, they used to teach us horrible things to do to ourselves. We don't care how you lose the weight, but you need to lose the weight, otherwise we're going to throw you out of the school. So we all learned horrible things.
Oh dear. So the film Black Swan, that's correct, is it? The film Black Swan is very realistic.
What's that?
Do you know the film Black Swan? The Black Swan?
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But I mean, there was a, and maybe it's different today in schools. I'm not sure. I hope so, but we were certainly taught that, thing like do whatever you can because otherwise you're done here.
God, that's awful.
So but my body changed, from the time I was 18 into 20, and I certainly wasn't a ballerina. I wasn't a skeleton anymore.
So so your body's changed. You don't go to New York.
Well, but I was going to be a modern dancer.
Oh, you're going to be a modern dancer. Okay.
It's okay to be a modern dancer and have a bigger body than a ballerina. But I didn't do that. And then they ended up kind of, struggling and figuring out what was I going to confuse, what was I going to do here in Atlanta. Now, why did I stay here? Because I don't like Atlanta. I really never have. But things kind of kept keeping me here.
Right.
And, relationships and security and whatever, kind of emotional stuff I was going through at that point, wasn't sure where to go.
Sure.
So, coming up, in a relationship, I, before I actually got into what I know to be my business at this point, my boyfriend at the time and I used to go to Renaissance Festival. And the Renaissance Festival was like magical to us. And we would go and, and I thought this was, this is where he was going to propose to me. And, it was all very, and then I started thinking, well, you're a you're a drummer. I'm a dancer. Why can't we make this work?
Okay, so just very quickly, I don't know what the Renaissance Festival is. Is it a medieval festival? Is it a...
Yeah. So we pretending that we live in,
medieval kings and queens.
Henry VIII, yes. So, and then we recreate that, and there are stage acts, and there are, actors who pretend of a character or that kind of thing.
Got it. Okay.
And that sort of thing. So, we fell in love with it, and then kind of audition,
Right.
you know, with very little, stuff to do. But it was like we were so, yeah, this is what we want to do. We just want to be here,
Brilliant.
and we got hired.
Great.
So, and then I started working with other and I was belly dancing. That was another thing that sort of took me from my background to, where I'm at now, is that, belly dancing became more of an okay thing. You don't have to be a skinny waif
Yes.
to belly dance. You can have curves and people love it, and, as long as you have rhythm and stuff like that. So anyway.
Yes. I know a
dancing-
bit about belly dancing because I've met there's a few belly dancers who do the same kind of corporate shows and things. I see them around. There's a couple I knew in Singapore, a couple in Hong Kong, and it seems to be quite a liberating thing. You don't have to be super skinny. In fact, that's not a bonus at all.
Yeah, and compared to ballet, of course, which is very restrictive, and
Yes.
you have to stand this way, and you have to put it this way. Belly dancing is actually just more natural movement, and it's actually better for your body, in my opinion. So, so in that time frame, we kind of started coming up with an act, I guess.
Yes.
And I also became a part of a Lebanese, a dance group where
Yes.
I was learning their kind of stuff, but I was also teaching them belly dance because they didn't know it, even though that's where they came from. So, anyway, it was just, combinations of stuff, and then 94,
Okay.
kind of when things started shifting.
Okay. So 94 is a big year. What happens there?
Well, I met an agent who I, said, hey, I'd love to do bellygrams. Bellygrams meaning a telegram where you go and dance and embarrass somebody, get paid for it.
Yes.
And
I've done a few of
said,
those.
Sure, What's that?
I've done a few sort of singing telegrams. I've had to go into people's offices
and I do those too now as well. But back then I was not really open to singing and opening my mouth. So
Right.
anyway, and that's a whole nother story because of the nuns in the Catholic school that ruined me. But anyway, so I was belly dancing, and then she kind of encouraged me. She's like, well, can you draw? And I said, well, yeah. She said, well, you're going to become a face painter. And can you do balloon animals? I'm like, no. Well, I'm going to teach you balloon animals. So that was kind of the whole ride of, changing into the next levels of other, things on my resume.
Those are
that
the
I
sort of...
didn't really have, but, she kind of got me into it, and, okay, and you're going to be a clown, and okay, now you're going to be a mime, and, that sort of thing. So...
And this is mainly the sort of the singing telegram, the dancing telegram kind of work. Is that right?
Well, I didn't do any singing telegrams because I was deathly afraid of opening my mouth and singing.
Sure. I just don't know what I don't. Is there a term for that? Telegram.
What, bellygram?
Yeah, bellygram.
Well, yeah, it was a telegram, but it was a bellygram. So I'm fine. Like at that point in time, I was fine with dancing in front of people.
Yes.
As long as I didn't have to
Talk.
open my mouth. And then, at that same point, we started a stage act for the Renaissance Festival. So me and my now ex-boyfriend.
Right.
This gets even more complicated.
Can I quickly jump in? What's a Sazak?
What's that?
What is that? You started a Sazak for the Renaissance Festival?
Stage act?
Oh, sorry, it's the phone line. I was thinking it was some fancy a stage act. Okay, I got it. It's just the phone line's a bit.
Stage act. So, in other words, you're going to be on stage for 5 shows a day.
Brilliant.
Half hour shows.
Yeah.
With script and dancing and drumming. That was our act.
Yeah.
If you know who Sonny and Cher are.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. If you ever saw any of their shows, that was kind of our shtick.
Brilliant.
It was, him being the bumbling and me being the smart ass,
Yes.
type of, that kind of thing. And then we would throw in the belly dancing and drumming and fire eating as well. So we did that for 7 seasons.
7 seasons?
But, Renaissance Festival doesn't pay well.
Right.
You get paid a stipend, and you're there for 9 hours a day, and you hope that you get lots and lots of tips.
Right.
So, but once I started at that point to get into, I could do a birthday party, face painting and balloon animals for the same amount of money that I'm getting paid for 9 hours at Renaissance Festival. And, they're 2 different animals.
Yes.
So, I love performing, and it's much more, in some ways, rewarding to have that audience experience versus going to a party, of kids and face painting and ballooning.
Right.
So it's a different thing. But, that's what happened because money obviously was an important part of the, picture. So,
yes, of course. Well, you've got to make money.
And at that point, as a single woman, that's what you need. So that's what happened, and then I kind of quit doing the Renaissance Festival, but at the same time, we then moved into doing corporate stuff, restaurants and, things like that,
Yes.
clubs, things like that, who would hire us
Yes.
as that act
Yes.
without the speaking part, but we would just do the drumming,
And the dancing.
fire eating. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
And does that sort of brings us that sort of up to date? When did you start your company?
Yes and no. I mean, that went on for a while, and I would have to say that we ran that ride for, up until, 2007, 8, when
Right.
things started, the economy was drifting down.
Yes.
And then people moved out and moved away, and I didn't really have any partners anymore. I also traveled with a band.
Oh.
So that was another cool, thing along those lines, that we traveled with the band and ate fire and, choreographed dancing before they came out.
Right.
And then also danced with them. So we got to go to, Chicago and Denver and.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Was that as much fun as it sounds?
I'm sorry?
Was that as much fun as it sounds? It sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, that's the thing. If you are a youngster,
Yes.
traveling on a Rockstar bus can be fun, but when you get a little bit older and you're sort of set in your kind of ways, and you then have, being the only girl with 9 guys.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yes, I imagine so. Yeah.
There was stuff like, you're sleeping in the little tiny coffin bed.
Right.
And anyway, and people smoking and,
Yeah.
whatever, just things that you wouldn't do normally.
It sounds more glamorous than it. It sounds more glamorous than it is then, yeah?
People think, right? But we were on TV and we, did festivals and cool things like that. There were moments. There were cool moments that I would say, it was kind of fun. So,
When did you start your company, Hair Brain Productions, which has a great logo? That's a lovely logo you have.
Well, thank you. I started in basically 94,
Right.
So at that point when I was in that transition of, Renaissance Festival, okay, we're moving away from that, we're moving into doing all kinds of stuff. So 94, 95 is kind of where I started shifting into, hey, I can have my own company,
Right.
I can start hiring other folks, and and that's what happened. I started working for bigger companies like the Hawks. And,
Oh yes, so you worked for 7 years, is that right?
9 years for the
9
Hawks.
years, okay.
And 9 years for a company called Cafe 22 Tango, which was a restaurant which had several, restaurants around the country.
So can I ask you some
Worked for them for a
questions?
while.
Can I ask you some questions? How do you handle those long-term bookings? How did you manage to be rehired year after year after year? Was it?
I think it was just timing.
Right.
I think it was just the right place at the right time. It's extremely difficult to find now. There are very few places that actually do that anymore. And the Hawks, when they sold the company to folks, they just started going, nope, we're cutting that out. We're cutting that out. Same thing with the restaurant. Everybody was kind of losing money at some point, and they just said, nope, we're not doing that anymore.
Okay, so when times were good.
So I kind of got on the right train at the right time.
Right.
Kind of thing.
And just for all any international listeners, the Hawks is it an American football team? What is the Hawks?
Basketball.
American basketball team. Okay, there we are. See, I know.
In Atlanta. So it's an Atlanta basketball team.
Okay, and
So,
what did you?
hiring.
Sorry, what did you do there? Were you a dancer or
I was face painting.
Face painting.
Face painting and balloon sculpting for the home games. For the fans and stuff like that.
So that's pretty regular. That's not like just once or twice a year. That's every few weeks.
No, there was a lot of home games.
Yeah.
That was a pretty scheduled. I gave them a discount obviously for having that many bookings, but yeah. So it was an awesome thing for, like I said, 9 years.
That was great. Yeah, what a good
sadly,
one.
that went away, but but yeah, it was a cool thing.
And when you're working for them doing the face painting and the balloons, they're not an entertainment company. So were you allowed to give out your own name card to other people?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that must have been
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I mean, that is a win-win situation for people like us.
Sure.
Because
Yeah. It was awesome. It was good. It just sadly went downhill when they started losing money. And
Right.
they just said, no, we can't afford that anymore. So, but, kind of the same thing happened with the restaurant that I was telling you about.
Right.
They kind of went, same deal. So, lots of stuff changed in 2008. And, it's been a struggle for years now.
That's interesting.
To try to get back
Right.
to where I was,
Sure. Okay, that is interesting.
Also, also Camel cigarettes. That was another big event.
Okay. What was that? The Camel what?
Camel cigarettes.
Oh, Camel cigarettes. Oh, okay.
Tobacco company.
Yeah.
So they had hired me because they were doing events.
Okay.
So I did lots of events for them, and they were doing the belly dancing, and Seven Veils was their theme, and so I hired tons of entertainers, and we worked multiple events for that.
Yeah.
That all went away too. So there's been such great runs,
Right.
and then they just and then they go away. But
Okay, that's interesting. So your work has been really affected by how strong the economy is.
yeah,
Because
Yeah.
I've been
I would have.
I grew up in England where the economy always got worse every year, and then I moved to Singapore after university, which is where I started working, and
Yeah.
there the economy got better every year, and so yeah, there was loads and loads of work, and the only thing that's slowed me down in the last 20 years was in Hong Kong and Singapore. They had this outbreak called SARS, the Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. And for 2 months there were no public events of any kind whatsoever. So that was a struggle for 2 months. But luckily, my act's been cheap enough, maybe, that they've always been able to hire me no matter what the economy is like. So we haven't had that. We haven't had such a bad effect over here.
Yeah, that's great for you. Yeah, I was making it, at my best almost 50,000.
Wow. Good stuff.
And, you know, and I mean, that's not huge, but I mean, it's huge for one person.
Yeah.
You know, that's for what I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, little overhead and things like that. So then when it dropped, when things got really bad, it was making 14,000.
Yeah.
So that's a huge, you know,
Big difference.
I've suffered for the last several years.
Yeah.
This last year, 2014 picked up a bit. I'm really hoping that, you know, 15 is going to be bigger and better, and we're kind of getting back on track.
Well, this has been a common thread with a lot of the entertainers I've talked to. A lot of us guys, I mean, I've mainly talked to guys who do quite physical shows, and for us in our 40s, it's hard to do our physical skills aren't going to get any better, and so for us,
that's true.
The future is kind of uncertain. But I always say we're going to be like the Rolling Stones. We're just going to carry on forever, even into our 70s.
Well, yes, and you know, the more vitamins you take, and the more, you know, supplements, blah blah blah, that hopefully we will be different than what we expect we should be at that age. You know, I hate to say this. I shouldn't probably say it, but anyway, I'm having a big birthday in a couple weeks, and I have to be. I don't know. You know, I have to fight it all the way.
Sure.
I don't know. What am I going to do? What am I going to do at this age? I mean, I guess I could stay paint and balloon animals for a while. You know, maybe belly dancing will not be something that anybody.
No, I understand. Yeah, it's one of those things. In your 20s, you're making. In my 20s, I was making more money than my lawyer friends, and it was great.
Right.
But you kind of reach a peak, and because we're just one person basically performing, we can't even if we had hundreds of bookings, you wouldn't be able to take them because there's only 24 hours in the day. So you reach a peak in your earnings, and I think I earn the same or less than I did or a little bit less than I did 20 years ago, even though I haven't been affected by the economy. So it's just one of those things. I just say it's great work if you can get it.
Right.
But I guess you have to be realistic. You have to think about, have to have some sort of backup plans, or be prepared to have a backup.
What is that exactly? Do you have one?
My wife is a lawyer, and so if my business goes downhill, we can survive on one income.
Well, if you could find me a lawyer. Because, I'm not sure what, you know, and I really want to be in California. You know, I've always wanted to get out of Atlanta. I didn't choose to be here. So, I mean, I got here, but that's not my choice. So anyway.
But then our generation.
I think bigger and better, but what?
But our generation, who knows what will happen to our generation? Because there's no reason why it should end badly. Vaudeville entertainers were taken over by cinema and radio and TV.
Right.
But there's already cinema, radio, TV, internet, and yet we're getting work. So maybe people will just carry on hiring us for doing balloon sculpting and face painting forever. Why not?
Well, and you know, I've done agenting, and you know that is part of what I do as my business is hiring other people.
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
So I mean, clearly that could be something that continues on.
Yes, that's what one of my friends does. He runs he started off as a performer, and now he's mainly a talent agency manager.
Yeah, right.
And another one's a juggler, but he's also a jeweler, and he's got jewellery as his backup plan.
Okay.
But yeah, it's one of those things. We have a great career, but nobody really knows how it will continue in the future. But we try our best.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you know, like I said, when things were rocking, and I was making my $50,000.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not that big of a deal, but at that point, I thought, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
you know? I'm golden. I have nothing that's going to stop me. And then, well, then the economy stopped me, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
Okay, now what do I do? And a lot of people that I knew started, like, getting regular jobs, like supermarket jobs and things like that. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Well, we're lucky.
So,
we don't work in an office. We don't work in a supermarket. I think we're pretty lucky, even if the money isn't always that good.
Yeah, you're right. I think we are lucky, and I hope to continue the luck.
Yeah.
In years past, and then I don't know what happens when we get to the nursing home.
Well, who knows?
So are we entertaining everybody there because of our skills?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I mean,
okay, Amy, let's talk about some specific stuff. So I like to get detailed stuff, not just the general, not just general stuff. I like to get something detailed because there will be other entertainers who will be listening. So singing telegrams, bellygrams, it's not something I know a lot about. Is there anything specific, any tips, anything you learnt that you could share? Is it scary?
well, I mean, what?
Is it scary? I mean, you're not on a stage, you're right.
Well, again, back to the original, what we were talking about earlier, that I was ruined by my nun in the 4th grade.
Right.
Who made us go sing a cappella at the front of the class.
Right.
I mean, individually.
Oh.
And I flipped out. I mean, I was freaked out for, well, most of my life.
Singing in public, you just didn't want to do it.
I sweated and choked and coughed and, turned red. I mean, it was awful.
Right.
I mean, and at 10 years old, okay, go up and sing a song,
Yeah.
and that's going to be your grade for the court, and it was horrible.
No.
So, I still blame her. She's dead now. But anyway, but so it took me a long time to get over that. And the thing that got me over that speaking thing, which was the big deal, was Renaissance Festival, because we had 5 shows a day, and we had a scripted thing.
Right.
And it was practice. I mean, clearly,
Mm-hmm.
every weekend, 5 shows a day. So I got over it, and then it took me a little while to go, okay, could I sing in front of people, because that was another added list to my resume.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, yeah, I can do it, and I did it, and I can carry a tune. I'm not a American Idol singer or anything like that. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not anybody that you could go, but I carry the tune. The point is, in my opinion, as far as telegrams go, is to be funny. I mean, make them laugh, make them happy, make them, I've actually done some that, that were kind of sad and made them cry, and I was crying singing. So, I mean, there are things that.
Well, this is what I want to hear. So, how did you make it funny? This is the stuff I like to hear.
Oh, well, obviously the costume helps. I mean, if you have a gorilla costume or a chicken costume, this is what I have, and you show up and you go, you act like a monkey, and then you go and you sing a silly song.
Oh, brilliant.
These things are, and they're so quick, you're there for 10, 15 minutes with max.
Right.
So you're in, you're out, you mess with people, and it mostly it works out pretty well. I mean, there have been bad ones, but mostly they're good. And you leave, give them balloons, and boo, fine, see ya.
So you're singing telegram. You come in, boom. You're dressed as a gorilla. You do the singing, and then you give them balloons at the end.
You do your song, happy birthday, whatever. I do Marilyn. I do Marilyn singing. I do not look anything like Marilyn Monroe, but enough makeup and wig and
Yeah.
dress, and you go in and you...
And what kind of sound system?
You like Marilyn.
What kind of sound
Sorry?
system did you carry? Did you carry a small sound system with you?
No.
Just singing
all
a cappella.
acapella.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Keep it really portable and nothing can go wrong.
I mean, it probably would be better with system, and if I was more technologically advanced, that would be great. Something portable to go boom, and plug it in and all that.
You mentioned that occasionally. You mentioned occasionally there were bad ones. Is there any bad ones you can tell us about? Anything that went wrong?
Oh,
any funny stories?
Well, yeah. Well, there's one that comes on the top of my head. That was my boyfriend and I were both entertainers at one point, and I got a call from the agent to say, there's a guy who wants you to bring balloons and to be the Harry Fairy. Harry Fairy is kind of a very jokey kind of thing.
Yes.
And because he's screwed up. And I went, what do you mean he's screwed up? Well, we don't know exactly.
Okay.
Oh. And, and I kind of went, that doesn't sound right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, set the boyfriend out in the Harry Ferry with balloons.
Yeah.
Got into the building, and she had to come down because it was like a secure deal.
Yes.
And she's like, "Oh, no way in hell! Get the hell away from me!" Yeah, she was pissed.
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, clearly he cheated on her.
Yes, he'd been cheating. Yeah.
He cheated on her, and he thought this was going to be the best way
Oh no.
to make her happy.
Yeah.
No, you don't send a Harry Fairy with balloons. You send diamonds, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, that was, yeah. So she sent him away.
Yeah.
But the guy obviously had to pay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, of course, because
Sorry, dude.
it's a surprise
That was
event.
a bad idea.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's a surprise event, and some people don't want that surprise.
Yeah, no, there's been some, bad. I did a bellygram at one point where I showed up, and I hate to say this, a very redneck kind of house,
Yes.
and I didn't even get to the driveway, and they said, "Oh no, we're not having any of that kind of stripping." I'm like, no, there's no stripping.
Yeah.
This is just belly dancing. No, get out of here.
God.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
So you leave, and you still get paid, but it's hard.
Yeah, I have that kind of thing sometimes. At the moment, I'm doing stilt walking at a carnival every day in Hong Kong, at a fun fair.
Yeah.
And I go out there. Hello, how are you doing? Yeah. Oh, is this your boyfriend? Oh, it's your third boyfriend. Oh, your second wife, your third wife. I'm talking on and on. And sometimes within 5 seconds, I've realised I've picked on someone who really doesn't want to talk about their husband or their boyfriend.
Yeah.
And you just have to back off straight away and go for somebody else.
Well, you got to be kind of careful in how you say things.
Yes.
In some ways, but I also have that thing with the telegrams. It's like when people decide at the last minute, and this is usually how this goes. Oh, you love this person so much that you you finally figured it out on the day of their birthday that you want to send it to them. And I got an hour to get there. Did you really think about this person? Do they like belly dancing? I mean,
yes.
why would you send that anyway?
Yes, you have that problem.
It's always crazy like that. So.
All right, that's singing telegrams. How about balloon sculpting? Did you get massive queues, and when your shift was over, were you able to? Is that a common problem for balloon twisters the world over? You have too many people asking for balloons and.
To stop the line.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. With balloons, they're pretty quick. and I can usually finally get somebody in line to be the bad guy. You know, hey, Mom, I know you're not going to want to do this job, but you might have to. Can you be the bad guy and tell everybody behind you that there's no more?
Yeah.
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 So that's kind of
that's what the people I know do.
With face painting, that gets a little harder because, you know, it takes longer. So then I would number my kids' hands. So I go with a paintbrush and I go, you know, number their hands, and still have to go with the, hey, Mom.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you this, but you're gonna have to be the bad guy. I hope you're very assertive in your life. You feel good about telling people no, because that's what you're gonna have to do.
Yep,
So
I think so.
sometimes that works. You
have to.
Or not. You know.
Yes, I don't think there's any easy way of ending the line. Because you never know, someone might turn up and just say, no, I want it. We've been here for 10 minutes. We've been here for half an hour. How can you turn us away?
Right.
Sometimes I have
I've gotten a whole thing like, you're a mean clown.
Yeah.
Gotten things like that. I mean, just like, really? Come on. You know, how long do you stay after your job when you're getting done being paid?
Exactly.
I mean, you know?
Exactly.
So, it's not fair, man. It's not fair.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I try to be nice about it. But, you know, when it gets to that crucial point, you go, all right, look, I'm sorry. We're really done here. And then I have to keep standing up and going, okay, there's still more people coming. No. You know, you're doing the signals.
Yeah.
No. Sorry. And any longer. But anyway.
I don't know if you're allowed to do it in America, but in Hong Kong, I have a bag of candies in my pocket, and if someone's really upset, I just give out a few candies and say, okay, that's it. You don't get a balloon, you get some candies.
You get candy instead of a balloon. Well, yeah. Hey,
that works.
I guess that works. Maybe.
Yeah,
sure. Or
but then you might get a whole bunch of kids arriving wanting candy.
Right. Well, then there's that. And I don't promote candy because that's not.
Exactly. It's not really that. It's not a help.
Anyway.
In Hong Kong and Southeast Asia, they are probably less politically correct. So you can get away with giving out candy, but in places like America and Europe, people would say, "No, what are you doing? You can't give sugar out to kids." Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I wouldn't do it just because of who I am and what I believe in the diet area. But anyway.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, I understand your concept. The other idea that has happened is when you're packing up and kids are coming up, and you might have some tattoos, some water, tattoos. Because here, take that, go home. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that would work. It's
not a face painting, but it's something.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I try to avoid all that conflict. If possible. Let's not. And it's really not the kids. Kids are okay with it. It's the parents.
It's the parent. Yes, it's the parents.
Are the problem. They make you feel bad. They try to guilt you into stuff. Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, what are you teaching your kids? No.
Yes.
No,
yes.
This is the line. This is where it's drawn. Come on, people.
Yeah, parents can be very pushy sometimes.
They're awful. They can be awful. And I've had wonderful parents. I'm not saying that, because I might use this in my somewhere along the line, but I don't want to say that. But yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be cool. You just got to be a cool person.
Right.
Just, and teach your kids. That's part of life. We don't always get what we want, right? Isn't that a Rolling Stone?
Yes. So okay, so
always get what you want.
So
sometimes you have to. Go ahead.
Yes. So balloons, face painting, problems with pushy parents. How about belly dancing?
Yeah.
Do you get problems with drunken men making moves on you?
Not really.
Not really. Good.
I've been told that I'm very sexy, but at the same time intimidating.
Right.
So I must have some sort of a a front,
Yes.
or whoever I am that is showing them like, well, yes, I am sexy, but you can't mess with me.
Right. That's good. That's good.
And they kind of get it. I mean, I've had kind of those kind of comments like, you're the sexiest thing I've ever seen, but they didn't hit on me or anything.
Good. Okay.
So I think I've had, I don't know, I actually got one boyfriend from belly dance in my lifetime. One.
Yeah, just one.
Which is kind of interesting that he had, the balls to step up. But yeah, no.
Okay, that's good.
I think I'm intimidating.
Okay, well, I think it's a good thing to be. I think I'm not intimidating enough at birthday parties. I was talking to some other birthday party entertainers, and they were very They used to really kind of scare the kids with their eyes and their face to make sure the kids stayed in line. And I'm not intimidating enough. Sometimes the kids run all over me at birthday parties.
They run over you? Oh.
Yeah, they're trying to pull my trousers off. They're trying to steal my things.
Yeah, you gotta have, in my opinion, with kids, there's kind of a couple of ways of dealing with them. But I feel like dealing with kids and talking to them like they're adults.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not talking down to them, not talking baby talk to them, but talking to them like they know what you're talking about. I mean,
exactly.
We're not mincing words. You get it, I get it. We're talking together, and they do get it.
Yep.
I have found that works. You don't.
I think you're right.
We're not being goofy or, yeah.
I think you're right. There's a clown I spoke to a few weeks ago, and he said all he does when the kids are being naughty at a birthday party, he just says to the child, "Look, it's not your party, okay? So just sit down and behave. It's not your party." And normally, they understand.
Right. Yeah. No, they do get it. And if you have to be the person that does the reprimanding, which you shouldn't have to be, but anyway, it may happen, then that is, but you do it quietly and you go, okay, no, that's not okay. Stop doing whatever you're doing. We're done with doing that because it's a party and everybody needs to get along. I think mostly everybody gets it when you do that.
Yeah.
The thing I've found the worst is the lack of thank yous.
Yes.
Sit down in front of you or get the balloon or face painting and they walk off like, yeah.
Yes, sometimes they do treat you.
Okay, no, that's not cool.
Yeah.
And I love the parents who make them sad because they're making them practice that,
Yes.
Like, yes, you have to say thank you.
Yes.
That's the nice thing.
Parents who make sure their kids treat you like another human being who deserves a bit of respect and thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. A please and thank you. That's awesome, but it is kind of a few and far between type of deal, sadly.
Mm.
And I hate to say that.
Okay.
And I have been at hours long. Not at parties necessarily, but at a corporate type of thing where nobody says it, and somebody will say it, and they go, "Wow, that's the first thank you I've gotten today." I make a point of saying that, like, thank you. You've taught your kid right. Awesome. That's what I want. So, anyway.
Do you have a favourite act, a favourite thing that you... What would be your favourite thing? Belly dancing, balloons, face painting?
Now,
which did you enjoy the most?
I'm a dancer first.
Right.
And obviously that's my first love.
Right.
I don't get a chance to do it anymore as much as I would like to. But being an Aquarian, I love the variety.
Right.
I love being able to do something different every time.
Oh, yeah.
I think if I had to only do one thing all the time, that would make me nuts.
Yes, I haven't
So,
specialised. I do all kinds of things. Stilt walking? Okay, I'll do that. Magic show? I'll do that.
What else do you do besides stilt?
Okay, so I started off doing juggling and unicycling. That was my first thing. Then pretty soon I was putting magic into my show. And then I was learning balloon twisting. Then I worked with a mime company. And then I've done stand-up comedy. I've done stilt walking. And a bubble show is one of the latest things I've been working on, doing a show of bubbles. So yeah, I just love doing new stuff.
Yeah, you kind of like me. Yeah, it evolved.
Yeah.
You move on and to move into other things that you never thought that you would do, but hey, it worked. You know. So.
And
well, so congratulations, your resume is a scroll, a very long scroll.
Oh.
I know, and I have people who go, you should be a magician. Maybe you should start like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, do I really need to add on to the, here's the other thing, and this is the thing I wanted to say to you because you are similar, is that you get people who say, well, you're a Jill of all trades, but master of none.
Yes.
And I want to say, no, that's not true. I am a master of all of them. I get, compliments and rewards from doing all of that. But if you have that, you have that thing where, oh, well, you can't do all of that well.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. I don't like that. And I don't know how to combat that, other than obviously to do it for people and to show them.
Well, for me,
Here,
it's
let me face paint. I'm going to do a balloon. I'm going to eat some fire. I'm going to do some. I mean, obviously that's never happened, but it's kind of a thorn in my side.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's not true. I do all of that well. So.
Yeah.
So is adding anything on to my resume going to help me?
Well, I think, in places like Hong Kong and Singapore where I work, there are very few entertainers like me, apart from magicians who seem to be everywhere in massive numbers. People who do the juggling, variety, unicycle, clown shows. There's not many. So.
Yeah.
I would get the same client coming me back the next year and saying, last year you did a juggling show, have you got a different show? So then I'd say, I've got a magic show this year, or I've got a bubble show. So for me that works out very well. But I have spoken to some other jugglers in America, and they seem to just specialise in pretty much juggling, and that's it.
Right.
So maybe it's a different industry there.
I don't, I've had, okay, here's the next thing. I've had magicians, and I want to talk bad about magicians.
Go on.
They tend to be kind of, I don't know, full of themselves.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
I love a couple of them, but I mean, there's some that just think that they're God's greatest gift, And at that point, they have told me, you need to specialize. You can't have the variety that you have because you're screwing with yourself. It's not going to help your company if you're a variety artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, but that's who I am.
Yeah.
I don't know how to change that. I'm going to have to specialize and pick one, but that's not.
Well, the way I think of it is, sure, you do lots of different acts. I do lots of different acts, but actually, it's still me on stage, and who they're paying for really is me. My magic show, it's pretty much the same personality and the same me who does the juggling show. And so I always think that they're paying for my 20 years of experience of being me on stage. And when I'm on stage, I do sort of click into, when I'm performing, I click into my alter ego. It's a sort of a bigger version of my normal personality. So whatever I'm doing, it's me, and so I am specialising. I'm specialising in doing stage shows as me. Is how I think of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You know, everybody has their idea of what works or doesn't work, and that was the comment from a magician.
Yes.
And I'm going to, in quotes, a magician who thinks he is all that and more, and, you know, well, you're doing everything wrong by blah, 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 you know, and I'm like, okay. I don't know, but this is me. This is who I am.
That's who you are. That's who you are. Yeah.
And multi-skilled, and I think I'm pretty good in all of it. I mean, you know, I haven't had any complaints.
Yeah.
So, you know, whatever.
Yeah, if you haven't had any complaints, it's working, yeah. If you're not getting any complaints.
Well, I mean, I guess I was more in the line of talking about boosting the website, that kind of thing, and that's where he was going with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still confused. I'm not a computer technological person, so...
Well, I looked at your website.
That kind of eludes me.
I looked at your website, and like I said at the start of this podcast, it's got a great logo. It looks really good. So, yeah,
Thank
great.
You. Thank you. Well,
Finally, Amy.
I still need to be at the top of Google, which I'm not.
I know, it's so hard to get to the top, isn't it?
Well, I did just find out that if you want to pay for the AdWords or whatever, it's like $1,000 a month.
I guess you just got to...
That's a tough thing to bite off if you're not quite thinking that.
I've this year I've been doing the same sort of thing, looking at my website, and occasionally I've managed to get it onto the first page if you type in birthday party entertainers Hong Kong. Occasionally, but no, my friends and rivals seem to have a higher web profile than me. But hopefully things like podcasts and putting videos on YouTube and linking to my website and will attract more attention. But also just giving out name cards at my own shows, and word of mouth is, if you do a good show, I think that's better than being on the first page of Google, I think.
Well, hopefully, if anything, marketing wise is good as long as it brings you another gig,
Yeah. And if you've got lots of different skills, then you're going to get different kinds of work where you can give out your name cards. Just keep on spreading your web as wide as you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I also work for other agents. Some of them great, some of them not so great.
Yeah.
So the people that I would like to take business away from because they're not so great and they're not good people.
Yeah.
They've taken my tips for singing telegrams.
They take your sorry?
They've taken my tips. Like if somebody
they take your tips. Oh dear.
Through the agent.
Yeah.
And then and they put the tip on the credit card.
Yes.
And then they tell me, hey, I just want to let you know that I've given you the tip. And then I have to tell him, oh, this agent takes tips. He doesn't give it to us.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of people that are not cool and ethical and
right.
If I could hire, if I could get hired, in this town versus them going through that guy in New York to come to me, then yes, So anyway.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other blah blah issue. There's so many issues,
Yes.
That
for me, if they pay me, if they pay me on time when they say they will, they're good.
Yep.
And if they don't pay me on time, they're bad.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Because a lot of them don't pay on time.
Do you have problems in Hong Kong with people not paying you?
In Singapore I did. In Hong Kong they've been better. In Singapore there were some real shady characters who'd, you'd phone them for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, it's ready. The check's in the post, or we posted it. Haven't you got the check yet?" And it's, "No, you haven't sent it, have you?" Yeah. But then I married my wife, who's a lawyer, and I
can you do PayPal?
You can now, yes. This was back in the back in the 90s.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Where you couldn't do anything. Yeah, when people ask me to do credit cards, I always go, "What? PayPal?"
Yeah.
You know, and if they have any weirdness about it, then I'm like, well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but there's some protection there.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
true.
So.
I sent my wife when I got married. My wife's a lawyer. I would send my wife out. My wife was quite keen on going out to their event company offices and hassling them as a lawyer, and then they paid up pretty fast.
Yeah, how handy is it to have a lawyer as your? Good for you.
Oh, Amy. Oh, it's great.
I know. Well, I don't have one of those. I have a bunch of cats, and
Okay.
that's not the same thing. So, but I do have a really good lawyer friend. So I think he's awesome. If he thinks he can do anything for me.
Yeah.
Sadly, there have been issues that would have to go to a small claims court, and and there's never any clear whether that's going to pay you out any money. You're just going to pay money to see if it works.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've done been to small claims tribunals occasionally, way back in the 90s.
Not a good time.
Amy, look, it's great talking to you, and I've got to go and start getting ready to do some 6 hours of stilt walking.
Good for you.
Thank you very much.
That sounds like a good gig.
Well, it doesn't pay brilliantly, but it's this is the quiet time of the year for me after Christmas. So yeah, I'm loving that. If anybody's in Hong Kong, they can see me at the harbour front near the Star Ferry on my stilts at this fun fair.
Okay.
And
well, I would love to know. You don't have to tell me on this phone call, but what you make there versus here. That would be very interesting.
Oh.
So I'm betting it's very different, but I don't know.
I'll tell you after we do our official closing in a few minutes' time.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I make. Amy, is there any you might not have anything, but is if you had to give a tip to any future entertainers, anyone who was wanting to start out in this strange industry that we inhabit, is there any tip you'd give somebody?
I guess it's hard to say, because when people tell me, I can't believe you've done what you've done, because when I was working in the restaurant industry and I got tired of being fired.
Yes.
As a cocktail waitress or busser or whatever, and I just thought, that's it. I'm done. I want to be my own business. I want to have my own stuff where I don't really have to answer to anybody. I mean, yes, you do have to answer to people, but it's not the same.
Yes.
You're kind of on a one-to-one basis with a client.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different thing. So I would say, if you have the talent and you have the balls, be fearless.
Yeah.
And the most important part probably is the marketing, is selling yourself.
Right.
Can you talk about yourself in the positive?
Right.
Can you say, I'm pretty much the greatest around. Even if you aren't, it doesn't matter. Still say, I'm the greatest. I'm great, and not only that, I'm cool. So I'm not going to give you a hard time about anything. I'm just going to be the coolest person you ever wanted to meet, and hang out with, and then I'm going to perform at your party. So, I mean, I think down to earth, as well as selling yourself, is kind of the point.
Sure. Amy? Amy,
Yeah.
It's great talking to you. Really good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So that was Amy Bielawski. Great person. Lovely to talk to. Really good time. And if you want to check her out, her website is www.amy hair-brainedproductions.com, and that's in the Atlanta area in the US of A. And if you want to reach me, I am at www.thebigbenshow.com. Alright, take care, see you around.